I'd like to welcome you all here tonight, along with Thomas Rain Crowe and Simone Lipscomb, our honored guests, the creators of this new book, New Natives, Becoming Indigenous in a Time of Crisis and Transition. Thomas and Simone had previously collaborated on Cracklate. Was this your most recent full-length collection, Thomas?
No.
Sorry, I was blanking out.
I can't remember.
Not too far back, though. So they've been collaborating with Images and Words for a while, but this is an exciting project that they're gonna. There'll be a multimedia presentation tonight, and I didn't exactly follow the run of show, but there's going to be some music. Thomas will share some of the words, and we'll run a slideshow in a little bit. When you give me the cue, I'll get it started. Great, thank you all. Take it away.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. A lot of familiar faces, and a whole lot of them I haven't seen for a while. And so it's really good to see all of you, and I hope you enjoy what we're going to share tonight. This is something that Simone and I have worked on for the last 6 months. She's going to tell you the story of how this book came together and why we're here. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you tell the story. Yeah.
All right, I'll play a little bit first. I'll stand up. So this project is very dear to us, and we just want to bring beauty into your lives tonight and let us share that let us all kind of come together in beauty. So let's take a moment to just kind of be in that space. So I'm supposed to stand up. Some things are just waiting to be born. You know, have you ever had something like that happen in your life where you feel this a little tap or something actually almost pushes you, and you just have something happen that you can't not let it happen? You know what I mean?
Totally.
So I'm a volunteer for Casting Carolina. I'm a fly fishing guide and volunteer for them, and I was had to leave my house about 7 months ago for a volunteer gig over on the West Fork of the Pigeon with a retreat with these ladies, and I never check email, but that morning, you know, it's dark and I'm like, oh, where's my gear? I'm like, I gotta check email, and because there's no service over there. And I checked, and this friend of mine had said, hey, you know, I'm gonna be at City Lights with Ted Olson. You should come. And it's to be a reading. And something in me said, you can't miss this. You have to go. And I'm like, but I can't call the women at the retreat to say, I don't know what to do. So I went. And I got there and I said, look, I know I'm here, I'm gonna help, but I'm gonna skip out on lunch, right? I'm sorry, I don't like to not have lunch with all these great women. It's a very special organization. But anyway, I said, I gotta go. And so anyway, I arrive here, and Thomas and Ted are doing their thing, reading poetry. And then Ted was like, when are you guys gonna do another collaboration? During their reading, and Thomas and I were like, he read from Cracklate, and that was cool. And anyway, so afterwards I walked up and I said, hey, when are we going to do another collaboration? And he says, well, I kind of like that idea, right? So he started sending me his work, and I started racking my brain for images from the last however many years and decades of what I felt would match. And what we decided to do is I would do a layout in InDesign, which is a publishing program, and then prepare a PDF that he could shop out, or we could shop out for a publisher. And we even contemplated like self-publishing, because you know, finding a publisher is not the easiest thing in the world, right? So we finally got through. Thomas is a great proofreader, editor, got it ready. The first publisher he sent it to said, yeah, but I want to have it done in October. And we're like, what? So it was like, this book was meant to be, it was supposed to come through, and I feel like both of us were just kind of like the doorways for it to come through, because the message that it shares and what we'll share as we go forward tonight is it's important for our time. So that's how this book came to be, and there you go.
So, new natives becoming indigenous in a time of crisis and transition. It's something that I've been contemplating now for several years. You know, what are we going to do, folks? I mean, things are coming to a head. The Kogi people who I follow said several years ago that 2025 was the cutoff date. If we hadn't done certain things to improve in all the aspects of being human here on the planet, that we were going to get behind and in big trouble. So it's 2025. And so I think the timing for this book is right on, because it addresses those issues, and it also hopefully gives a few possibilities for moving forward in a positive sense as well. So just want to share with you a couple things from the book. It's part essay and part poetry. Some of the essay titles are Beauty, In Praise of Wilderness, The Spirit in Place, The Sacred, The New Naturalists, The Wild Work, and then the second part is poetry. And a few of the titles in that section are The Aristocracy of the Wild, A Beatnik Wanders into Appalachia and Learns the Language of Earth and Sky. That would have been me, of course. William Bartram goes hiking in the wilderness and falls in love with a beautiful girl. And then No More Nationalism. So it's a mix of semi-political essays and poetry, and spiritual, social pieces as well. So the book starts out with a quote by Joanna Macy, and I know all of you, or most of you, know who I'm talking about in this case. What she writes is, to be alive in this beautiful self-organizing universe, to participate in the dance of life with senses to perceive it, lungs that breathe it, organs that draw nourishment from it, is a wonder beyond words. And one more little thing just to introduce the book in the contents. A little quote from a man named Peter Berg. Some of you may know who that is or have heard of him. He was really the founder for the bioregional movement here in this country. He was in California. I lived in California in the 1970s. I knew Peter, and he was starting up the bioregion called Planet Drum. And he coined a phrase called reinhabitation. And so I use a quote from him here to start our book. And the quote says, in a distinct, diverse, and interdependent part of the planetary biosphere that deserves a unique social, political, and cultural identity to match its natural endowment, it would be possible for us to deliberately put a renewed culture into harmony with the natural flows of energy and life, in a process that could be called reinhabitation. We can become natives. And new natives, I coined that phrase back in the 1970s. So he did reinhabitation, I did new natives, and here we are, 50 years later, what is it, something like that? Are you kidding? I mean, but, you know, it's all about timing, and now is the time, I think. And so I'm going to sit down, I'm going to let Simone share some slides with you.
Yeah. Chris is going to work with the ornery computer.
I didn't mention it, but this book is essays and poetry, but it's also got dozens of photographs by Simone. So we're gonna look at a few.
We're so moved that will help you.
Oh, I think you brought it up. Okay. Are we starting?
I think.
Yes. It's not playing. Oh, it's trying to. Oh, there you go. You got it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've said before, Simone and I have been on the road with this book, and we've come home, this is just as wonderful to see all of you here, and I wanted to thank Chris and Matt for putting this together in our hometown bookstore, which we all support, and I hope you will and continue to. What I've said in previous presentations is, if you don't want to read the book, you can look at the pictures. I just had a preview of that, and the pictures really tell the story as well as my writing does, and it's been wonderful to find the way to complement each other with the words and the pictures. So I'm going to just leap into the book. We're going to talk a little bit and share a few paragraphs from the introductions. I wrote an introduction and Simone wrote an introduction, so we're going to share that, and then we'll get into the deeper aspects of the book. But this will give you kind of an outline for what the book is going to be discussing. My concerns, in a word, the environment. We're losing it to our insatiable hunger for consumption and commodities, things, stuff, and in our incompetence to manage and balance population and pollution in relation to what we think of as growth and progress. Almost all of my work, writing and activism, these days has some foundation in my concern for the environment and what we have done to it and what must be done to stop the destruction and desecration of the planet and the atmosphere that surrounds it. This is critical, and we all need to be working on this in one way or another, to try to put things back in a state of homeostasis. Yes, we are individuals and have, if we are lucky, the freedom to roam and choose how and where we live. But even so, we don't live in a vacuum. We live among other people and wild critters and landscapes, whether we acknowledge it or not. And each one of those landscapes, those environments, those places, influences and affects where we go, what we do, and who we become. Barry Lopez, the Oregon-based naturalist writer, says, when you feel the surge of life, you're in the right place. We need to reinvent ourselves and our responsibilities to each other, our families, our communities, our countries, and our planet. He goes on, if we're going to survive and to thrive in whatever landscape the world offers us in the decades ahead, we must learn to speak respectfully to each other, to listen to each other, to take into consideration the fate of each other's children. We need to wake up and become awoken to the salvation of a multicultural existence. Our contemporary indigenous wisdom keepers are everywhere if we're open and attuned to them, and are striving to help us to not only know ourselves, but to learn how to live together and in harmony with our identified natural and human communities. In other words, we're going to need to, as the Beatles song implies, come together. A song that rings out today with its more than pertinent title and urgent message, come together right now. We must come together with reciprocated love, as Lopez names it, and with now, meaning today. There is no time to waste. And so I'm going to flip over here to the poetry half of the book and just add one little poetic bit to the introduction here for the book part. It's called The Aristocracy of the Wild, and there's a quote by Henry David Thoreau who says, all good things are wild and free. I've had a little poster up in my study in my room for probably 50 years with that quote on it, because I believe it. I believe it. It's not the money, it's the wilderness that turns me on. It's not the fame, it's the songs I have learned from birds. It's not the sex, it's the orgasm of a windy day. The taste of wild grapes, the smell of honeysuckle, the sound of thunder in the hills. This is my inheritance, the things that have made me rich, the blue blood in my veins. It's not the prestige or the privilege. It's not the mansions. It's the time I've spent in caves. It's not the power. It's the cougar's call of caution, the bleating of lambs, the lilacs, the asters, the lyre-leaf sage. This is my aristocratia, the things that have gave me heart, the nobility of my pale skin. It's not the class or the style. It's not the authority. It's the river after a torrential rain. It's not the elegance. It's the genius of diversity, the community of ants, the comb of the bees, the nest of hummingbirds. These.
That's probably all we need to say right there. This is my note on the book. John Seed once said, "I am part of the rainforest protecting itself." The idea he shares is that we are one with all life, and when we are open, we can take action as an extension of the earth protecting itself. I first learned of John Seed when I spent a week with Joanna Macy and 30 other individuals learning about deep ecology and healing our disconnect from Earth. This was after I spent a year documenting the BP Deepwater Horizon Gulf of Mexico oil spill disaster. I was emotionally and spiritually burned out, depressed, exhausted, and Joanna helped me heal and open myself again to align with beauty. 25 years after that explosion of the Deepwater Horizon, an event that killed 11 workers and created the largest oil spill in the history of marine oil drilling operations, I was hiking with friends on Alum Cave Trail. We made it to the LeConte Lodge and enjoyed lunch, and then one friend decided to stay at the lodge and rest, so I took the other friend up to cliff tops, a short distance from the lodge. Now, there's 2 trails that go to the cliff tops, and I led us up the longer one for whatever reason, just that's where we went. And as soon as we turned onto the cliff tops trail, off of the boulevard trail, we smelled smoke and saw a billowing puff coming from a grassy area. Without even looking at each other to talk about it or pausing, we sprinted through the woods towards the smoke and found an actively burning fire in a very poorly constructed circle of rocks. There was dry grass surrounding the site and high winds were blowing. My friend Paige, a battalion chief in a fire department in Georgia, immediately took action. She worked on suppressing the fire and I ran for more water and to alert the lodge staff. The fire was quickly extinguished and a potential catastrophe was averted. Never have I felt like 2 individuals were so in the right place at the exact right time. The wind was blowing towards the lodge. One spark from the strong winds could have created a loss of historic structures, forest, wildlife, and even human life. And the experience reminded me of John Seed's quote, "I'm part of the rainforest protecting itself." Perhaps our openness to nature, to service, allowed the forest to rise up through us to protect itself. Our love of nature called us to that intersection of need and skill. Imagine what could happen in our lives and in this world if many of us were open to using our skills and allowed life to call us to that sacred intersection where need and skill meet, not just once, but as a life practice. I believe the world could be transformed.
So we're just going to dive deep into this book here and see what we can come up with to share with you. I'm going to start with a chapter titled New Native, a couple paragraphs from that chapter. And what I'm going to read sounds like this. To my way of thinking, if we don't hold the earth and all its life as sacred and worthy of reverence, we are undermining our own well-being. Without a healthy, mentally balanced life, one thing predetermines the other. Without breathable air and potable water, where would we be? Without a diverse and expansive range of plants and animals, where would we be? Without the flowers and bees, the pine nuts and squirrels, the berries and bears, where would we be? Where will we be when all this is altered, compromised, or gone? I, for one, am clear about this idea of diversity and my relationship with other species. I don't want to live in a world absent of elephants and whales. And I'm serious about that. I came up with that little thing that spoke to me when I was in my 20s, and I still believe it. We have only one planet, one mountain chain known as the Appalachians, and we are allowed only one such experiment. These all depend upon balance that is created by a diverse biosphere. Diversity is not only preferable, it is paramount. Why make a world-threatening and unnecessary gamble by continuing in the direction that the human race is going in if a safe option is open? E.O. Wilson's option is for humans to relinquish control and ownership and to surrender enough additional land into wilderness to total 1/2 the surface of the earth. You get what you give up. Many years ago, I was in my late 20s, this is the 1980s, I created a program called Identification and Protection of Native American Sacred Sites in the Southern Appalachians. And I was working with people on the reservation, I was working with people in government, with the National Forest Service people, and it was a real spectrum of different kinds of people working on a project to literally identify and protect the sacred sites that were really important to the Cherokee. And we worked on this for a few years, and there was a lot of publicity. Things were getting out there. People were sharing things from land that they owned that they'd heard their grandparents told them about, and it was really a very active and enlightening program until I got a call one night from Boone, from a man who said, I just overheard a conversation that there's a man out with a rifle that's going to shoot you. He's been paid off to do you in, because what we were doing, we were trying to protect sacred sites that some of the landowners, Grandfather Mountain, I'll just name it, was the big one, and those landowners didn't want to give up their property. They wanted to make money from it, and so I was the culprit, and so there you go. So we had to disband the program. I didn't want anybody else to get into trouble and the violence to continue, so we just stopped the program. But the information had gotten out, and the momentum had started, and some really good things did happen afterwards in that way to protect Cherokee land and sacred places for indefinite future. So I'm just going to read just a little bit about that. It said, later, during the Sacred Sites project, I witnessed not only traditional ceremonies, but also spent time in sacred places that truly felt imbued with a numinous energy or a presiding divinity, a presence that was not only physically perceptible, but also remarkable. I noticed the pattern. These places, waterfalls, groves of trees, springs, mountain peaks, rock cliffs, shared geographic characteristics. Encountering them during the course of everyday travel always gave me pause, causing me to slow down, pay attention, and take notice. And during those years, I became sensitive to place. I was gifted with some of my senses that I hadn't been utilizing my whole life, came alive, and I could walk into a place and I could feel the identity of those places. It was like meeting a human for the first time and speaking with them and getting a sense of who they might be. It was the same way with places, and the indigenous people that I've known or knew at the time would speak about exactly the same thing and how they understood that and how they were taught that, and the people from their past generations had passed on those skills and that information. So I felt like I was on the right course and learning from the right people. So what is sacred? In a very real sense, as indigenous peoples have believed for millennia, the earth itself is a sacred temple, a church, a gift and a covenant from the Creator. Or as poet Wendell Berry proclaims, what I stand for is what I stand on. Would we dare to swear inside a church or desecrate it? If not, why should we be any less respectful toward the earth, which literally sustains our lives?
Yeah.
Amen.
In bleak times like these, in which we are living, what then can we do? We don't need to fight fire with fire, or respond in kind to the ways of the wicked and the monetarily possessed. And I won't name names. If we just flood the marketplaces, the pages of our papers, the airwaves, the museums, the theaters, the shops, the streets, our computer, and our minds with beauty, I believe we'll have a chance to turn things around. It's a subtle, if not radical, approach, but it just may be worth a try. While this may seem to some a little far-fetched, it's the best idea I've had lately. I believe by flooding the streets, the marketplace, the pages of our papers, the airwaves, the museums, the theaters, the shops, and our minds and language with beauty, we too can tame the more primitive and self-indulgent urges of the beast of progress and ownership. We can, in fact, turn things around. And finally, many years have gone by, and I am now in my elder years. 34, 35. Only now am I truly beginning to replace my European values with their emphasis on separation and isolation with those of my traditional Cherokee neighbors who view the world much more holistically. I'm making progress. My Cherokee friends tease me. "You'll get it someday," they say laughing. And I know I still have a long way to go, but I'm working diligently to see the bigger picture that comes so easily to my indigenous friends. A picture in which everything is connected and everything is sacred. Your turn.
My turn? So one of the themes that Thomas and I kept coming up against, as evidenced by his reading, is beauty, and how beauty is such a healing force in our world. And obviously, he's writing about that. He's written about that, and I do the visual arts, the music, and believe beauty is vital to our mental and spiritual and emotional health and even physical health. But one of the things I wanted to share was a practice that I do when I'm hiking is I'll take a flute with me, and I will walk out off the trail just a little bit, and maybe a rock face or a river, wherever I am, I will just kind of open my heart and say thank you to the rock face or the cliff or the, wherever. And I'll play my flute. And I've noticed that there's a reciprocity that I'm giving this, but I'm feeling something returning. And when I was on I love Alum Cave Trail, I do it a lot, and up to LeConte. And I was up in the primeval, I call it the primeval forest, when the upper elevation forest, where the trees smell so good, and it's just moss everywhere. It's real, just, gorgeous. And I did that, and I had a friend with me, and I just started weeping because it felt like a wave of love just coming at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, yes. But I guess my point is that when we open ourselves up and we say thank you, that nature is always there and it's always giving, but it's up to us to open ourselves up. It's always happening. There's always the energy, the whatever you want to call it, but we're the reason we're not feeling that connection. It's not nature. So I wanted to share that, and then I also wanted to open it up to you all and ask, how do you connect with beauty? Doesn't have to be nature, but we like, because we're trying to create community with the book and these gatherings, is what do you do? How do you connect with beauty? And you do not have to answer. It's not mandatory. But if you'd like to share, it's okay. Yeah.
My definition of beauty is the birds in the morning. We have 2 bird feeders that are just outside our window, bedroom window. And the most fascinating thing to me was to see something that Thomas was talking about, and that is the birds can do it, why can't we? It's how the robins, the male will feed the female. And the male will sit there and watch for trouble while the female is on the other feeder. And then the robins will wait for the goldfinches, and the goldfinches will come and they will feed. Then the goldfinches will leave and the robins will come back, or another bird will come back, blue jays maybe. But they do it in a way that respects one another, and they take care of each other, and they do it in harmony. They coordinate. It's like a dance.
That's beautiful.
And that's of all the beauty here, that's the one thing that defines it for me in a way that speaks to what Thomas was talking about.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Anybody else want to share what they see as beauty? Yeah.
For me, beauty isn't something out there that you see or hear or sense. It's a type of nourishment that fills me with peace and compassion.
Wonderful. I'm going to breathe that one in. That's nice.
There's a piece of property on our little farm that is the perfect sanctuary for deers that are nursing their fawns. And they give birth in this area because it cannot be seen by hunters from below or above. It's just a bit of a slope that gets so steep and then bottoms out just enough that it creates a wonderful place for them to eat and raise the fawns and leave them there when they need to go forage or whatever. And I did not know about this when we first bought the property. I actually moved here thinking I would hunt deer from my front deck. But when I found that first fawn as I began to mow my pasture, I gave up any thought of hunting. And I have enjoyed those deer so much, and they keep coming back to their birthplace or their former hangouts. So you see them at all stages of their life, those that survive.
Yes.
But I know many consider them a pest, and I do believe there's something to be said about population control. But I also think that they're probably one of the prettiest things we have, and I just couldn't think of shooting them after having discovered them and being vulnerable, not even able to run away. They were so young. I said, this is a special place for me and them.
That's wonderful.
So we have had basically a wildlife refuge since we bought this farm, and we've changed in a lot of ways, and all of them for the better. We're just opening up and looking at what's around and relating to it differently than the thoughts we carried with us to this place.
Right, that's beautiful. That's very beautiful. You were saying you kiss the leaves on the trees?
Yeah, the ones that are flaunting their beauty. When you go by, you can't resist.
I love it. I love it. There's something about developing a personal relationship. Thomas writes about, a sense of place and beauty, and it's really without being a preach. This could be a preaching note. I won't preach, but just it's an opportunity for all of us to come together to join forces for good, instead of fighting and disagreeing, how we can shift our communities, we can shift our own lives, we can shift this room, just by recognizing beauty, kissing leaves, playing flutes to the rocks, or singing, or whatever, the birds, just recognizing that beauty is something that changes you and causes compassion to be born in you. So anyway, that's just something we wanted to open up the floor and add. And then if you have questions for us about the project or whatever, we're open to hearing your questions or comments or whatever.
About your photos, are they from all over the place? I mean, way beyond just the US?
Yeah, so the cover is from Ireland, from a hike I did on Diamond Hill in Connemara. And then there's Humpback Whales in the Dominican Republic, and lots of photographs from this area, of course, the Smokies and trails and stuff. But yeah, there's a mixture.
Do you have a favorite place or a favorite photo?
Well, my favorite photograph is actually the cover. It's not that photograph, but there's an actual a horizontal version I took. And the reason is because Ireland has changeable weather. You know, if you go to Ireland, they always say, you know, if you don't like the weather, it's going to change in 5 minutes, right? But that particular day, I was by myself hiking, and it went from nice, sunny to sleet, wind that just, I thought it was going to blow me off the trail. It was very scary. I was like, oh my God, nobody knows where I am. But the elemental energy in Ireland on the west coast just blew my mind, because it felt like nature had never been silenced there. That the people had such a dynamic relationship with not just, like, you know, the sea and the rocks, but the energy, the spirit of nature had been honored, and you could feel it. I was just, so yeah, that's my favorite photo. That photograph is, because it just did something to me.
What was the hike there you said you were doing?
Diamond Hill. It's in Connemara National Park. What other questions? Comments?
I just wanted to add one thing. You mentioned the word community is a word that I use a lot in the book. I here this evening feels like community to me. There's so many people in this room that I haven't seen in a long time, or if I have, are close friends and neighbors, and I feel like that if I was going to try to start some kind of an organizational process to create a community in some way or another, we would do it right now. Because I know so many of you, and I live in a beautiful place. Simone's talking about beauty, and I live in a beautiful place that Chris and his family owns, and we've lived there for 33 or 34 years, and it just gets more beautiful all the time. It changes, but it gets more beautiful all the time. So it's that process of recognizing where you live and the importance of what that is and what it represents, and then forming communities with other neighbors and friends and the wildlife and the plant life and everything. So I'm very grateful, and I'm grateful to all of you. I'm grateful to all of you, because all of you in this room, pretty much everyone in this room, has had an influence on my life in a very positive way. And I've had certain kinds of interactions that have enhanced my own awareness of the things that we're talking about. So I just want to thank all of you very, very much for being a part of my life and being a part of this beautiful life. And I used to refer to it as the Garden of Eden, because when I was young, growing up over in Robbinsville, my parents went to a Methodist church, and one Sunday the preacher started telling all of us that we were all sinners. And that was the end of my Christian identification. I had to go to church because I was too young to say I couldn't, but I never believed in Christianity after that because I was not a sinner at the age of 9. I hadn't done anything to anybody, to hurt anybody or anything. And I'd spent most of my time in Graham County with my Cherokee friends running around in the woods barefoot and things like that. So, but the Garden of Eden, we're living in the Garden of Eden. I've known that my whole life. And the indigenous people, as David knows, have proclaimed that forever and ever.
That reminds me, sometimes I'll hear people say, God's gonna save us, and I'll turn around and say, we are the ones God is waiting for. And it does get their attention, even if it's just for a short period of time.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to share that as you were speaking, you reminded me that beauty also, just because I felt it as you were speaking, beauty also is the hope and the faith in goodness and the idea that we can get there as a humanity, as a species, that we can make this evolutionary leap and turn something currently dark and ugly into the beauty that we're looking for. And so I frequently say, imagine all of the energy that is spent on any form of negativity, telling people what they can and can't do, or what shouldn't happen, or how wrong they are. And if we stopped all of that and accepted each other and loved each other and cared for each other, imagine how much energy we would have and what positive things we could be doing with it. And your project is a thing of beauty because it both inspires and suggests that we should, and also talks about the positive things we can be doing with that energy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't have a question, more of a testimonial, but lately I've been running into several people that have said, what are we to do? And these aren't just left-wing people. They're people from different backgrounds, and some people that just are at the end of their rope as far as keeping things together, you know, from all different locations. And I used to say, well, I got an idea for you. And now, since you all published the book, I can say, well, I got an idea for you. But you both started threads about, Thomas started a thread about changing our minds so that we can fit in with the natural world, and you talked about creating, you extended the idea of beauty and talked about creating and bringing it into the community, bringing it into our consciousness. And weaving those together, Buckminster Fuller said, our goal is not to fight the existing system. Our goal is to develop new models that make it obsolete.
Yes.
And the idea of getting in tune with the natural world and our community, we can carry that out and start manifesting that in terms of institutions like a co-op or a disaster relief fund, or any different way that we're moved. And that starts forming the groundwork for a new society, a new order, and involves people at a very deep level so that they stay involved, because it involves a change of heart and mind. And I call that full spectrum resistance.
I love it. I love that.
You said it was very subtle, and it is, but it's also very powerful. And thank you for bringing it all together in the book and giving us this tool.
Yeah.
I listened to you all, and Thomas was talking about some poetry and some stories, but I didn't hear any stories. It was all poetry.
Oh, right.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Of course.
Poetic prose.
Any other questions or comments?
If any of you happened to read the newspaper, the Sylva Herald. This man here writes a lot of letters to the editor about all kinds of things that we need to be paying attention to. So,
Can I just tell you, I've written a book, it's all about what you're talking about, but it's data. It's all data and facts, and you all reminded me tonight that in business, we don't need that. What we need is poetry. What we need is what you all were giving us tonight. That's what helps so much.
I've got a long story to respond to that. I won't make it a long story, but I spent the 1970s in San Francisco with my heroes and my idols, and I believed that I was in my 20s, and I believed that if we could create a lot of poetry together, and it was a community effort, that we could change the world. I really believed that. I was naive enough to believe that at a young age. I still believe it's possible, but I don't believe it in the same way. I believe in the power of words, and the poetic mindset has that kind of effect and can create change, even if it's very subtle and we don't really know what's happening. Those words and those images, they get into our minds and bodies, and in various subtle ways, maybe we change behavior and over time. But we really thought we were creating a revolution, and we were publishing magazines, we were doing big community events and a lot of political stuff, but it was all couched in the poetry. It was the poetry was the foundation for the whole thing, and we spoke and slept and dreamed poetry for years in San Francisco, and so that's how I would respond to what you said. I believe it's true. Yeah.
Are you taking this message to the colleges? I feel like there's a whole generation of young people that are terrified of silence. And that's what you get from nature. And I feel like they walk in nature with phones, and it just concerns me that they don't ever tune into the silence.
That's, I could not agree with you more about how we're all, kind of conditioned, and especially the younger people to just be afraid of silence and stillness, especially stillness, like when you're out in nature. And I've gone on the trail to Charlie's Bunyan and just stepped off, I don't know, maybe 20 feet and sat on a mossy log to see how many people noticed me. And I didn't do it for that reason. I did it just because I love that area. It's high elevation, it's just beautiful. And the many times I've done that, one person has seen me, and it was a child. Which says everything, because you can hear people coming, blah, 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 and they've got their radios going. I don't understand that on the trail. Anyway, don't want to be judgy. But yeah, I mean, it's like, how many of us, when you're hiking or walking, actually take the time to sink in and really be silent in your presence with nature, or in your garden, or walking down the sidewalk? Just really notice what's happening. And Joanna Macy, in the week I spent, we did a grief ritual, and she had us come to, we did a walk where we'd go out in the forest and collect a stone, and during the grief ritual, we were all seated on the floor, and if we felt led, we didn't have to, we could represent a part of nature that was in threat or damaged or whatever, and we created a cairn, and it was very, very interesting. And so I felt like I'd been working on the oil spill, and I felt very strongly that the sea turtles just coming through, and I couldn't stand up. I literally crawled. This is the wildest experience. I crawled across the floor. We're in this big open area inside, and it was like the grandmother sea turtle just coming through me and putting that memory stone in that cairn. And And it just reminded me, like, part of the reason we cut off from nature is because of our grief. That's what Joanna taught, is that, you know, we get angry, why are people not paying attention? And she said that people don't pay attention because the grief is so deep, they don't know what to do with it. They see the forest disappearing, they see oil spills, they see all of this sadness, and they can't deal with it, so they compartmentalize. So part of our task is to help people touch their grief, because under the grief is love. And if we stay stuck in anger, coming at people that are not helping, that are, you know, whatever, name it.
Or denial.
Yeah, that we, if we can help them touch the grief, then underneath we'll find the love, and that's where we can change. And it just reminds me of that silence, of being okay, because a lot of times when we go into silence, there's sadness, because if we're paying attention, we see what's happening around us, and it can be very sad. So I guess all of that is to say yes to that, and to be okay with our grief. You know, to be okay with it, to be able to feel our sadness, but know that it comes from a place of deep, deep, profound love for our planet and for our people and animals and poets and musicians and citizens.
If things feel now, you know, pretty dark and overwhelming, I remember a quote from back in the day, it's always darker before the dawn. So the dawn's happening as we experience the dark part. So got to keep that hope rolling.
It's always dawn somewhere. Any other questions or comments? I know Chris has books for sale. The books and some of our other books are here that you can look at. But we love you to buy our books. We love you to support City Lights, but we also love that you're here in community tonight and you know, willing to listen to us and celebrate coming together as writers and poets and musicians and photographers, and celebrating the creative aspect that all of us can do to bring light into the world. And it's kind of fun.
It can be. And I just wanted to throw out this little suggestion. Buy one and get one free. Buy one of the books that Chris is selling here tonight, and I'm going to give you a free copy of my translation of Hafez, which is, he's probably my favorite poet of all time. Most profound and prolific poet that I've ever run into in my life. So you support Chris and his business and our book, and you get a free Hafez. So
Thank you.
So we'll close with just a little more music, and I would just like to invite you to kind of check in with yourself and the energy of care and concern that I've felt from so many of you tonight, and just take that back out into your lives when you go out, you know, just take it with you.
one more nugget. Did you give us some history of your flute?
This flute, this particular flute, was created by J.P. Gomez in Sedona, Arizona. He makes, I mean, I've lusted after one of his flutes for many years. He makes concert tuned flutes, so anyway, this is my favorite. It's my newest. Well, no, I bought another one since then. But anyway, his work is amazing. His craftsmanship is quite special. So,
Say the name again, please.
J.P. Gomez,
Thank you.
and I think it's Heart Song Flutes. So I'm starting to negotiate on another one, but after property taxes are paid.
The evils of
Later.
ownership.
Thank you all so much.
So buy those books, folks.
Those signed books down front, you can get them signed, you can fill up the